Hey, welcome renters. I'm Harriet and I work for an upstate New York landlord, and I'm here to help you make the most of your lease. Today we look at ERAP, that's the Emergency Rental Assistance Program here in New York State, and look at what it takes to qualify. But first, disclosures, disclaimers. I'm not a lawyer. This is informational. It might have changed by the time you're watching this from the time that we recorded it, but disclosures somewhere will appear. Today's topic is New York State ERAP program. If you remember from yesterday, that's the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. And yesterday I made it sound like it was the greatest thing to happen since sliced bread, or maybe before. But there are a bunch of hurdles that you all have to jump through to actually take advantage of the program. And hey, it's not perfect. What is, right? So eligibility. You may be wondering, do I qualify for this rental assistance from the state of New York? The answer is, well, maybe. There are 4 things that the state wants you to meet to qualify. The first is that you need to live in New York State and your rental needs to be your primary residence, the one that you're getting help for. The second thing is you can't make too much income. There are different levels of income that are allowable for every given county in New York State, so we will link the document that has all of the counties in it. It also goes by how many people are in your household. So if you've got more people in your household, you can make more money and still qualify than if you had fewer people in your household. So that's the second thing, is income. The first thing was living in New York State and renting your primary residence. The third thing is having been affected by COVID. This can be either direct or indirect. A little bit later we'll talk about a lot of those examples, but safe to say many people will qualify as having been affected by COVID over the last year. Who would have thunk, right? Now the fourth thing is interesting. It's that you need to be housing insecure. Now here's the interesting thing. If you qualified under the COVID number 3 item, that automatically qualifies you for the fourth thing, which is housing insecurity. So it's kind of a distinction without a difference, as somebody used to say. So you may be thinking, hey, great, it sounds like my family would qualify. What's the problem? Well, there's not really a problem, but you know how the last year perseverance and persistence have been themes? No change here. So there is a lot of paperwork required. You will need to document your income for the state of New York. You will need to document each person in your household for the state of New York. That means having IDs. You need to show the state of New York some piece of paper that shows that each person in your household exists and is part of your household. So a driver's license works, but if you're 4, you probably don't have a driver's license. A birth certificate or a school registration can also work. Most landlords and the state of New York will be able to help you with what that is required, but that does mean a couple pieces of paper for everybody in your household, likely. Also, anyone in your household that has a social security number, you will need to share that with the state of New York. If somebody is young enough that they don't have one yet, that's okay. If somebody doesn't have a social security number at all, that's okay. Your citizenship status is not a qualifying item under this program, so you don't have to be a citizen of the US, you don't have to have legal status, but you do have to be able to prove that you live in New York. Don't you love paper chases? And are we done yet? No. You will need to prove that you have a lease or some agreement with your landlord to live where you're living, and also something that shows that you owe rent. Both of those things can come from your landlord instead of from you, but if your landlord hasn't quite gotten on the ball yet, a copy of your lease, a copy of rental statements or receipts, all of those things can help fulfill that paperwork requirement. I think we might almost. So is that about it? Well, here is the list of documentation for renters. We're almost done. You can also use a utility bill to show that you live where you say you live, if you don't have the lease handy and your landlord hasn't yet responded. And if you are also applying for utility bill assistance, you will definitely need to include your utility bills. I think that's about it. And then your landlord, if your landlord is putting stuff in first, they can upload your lease. I'm not quite clear yet if both the landlord and the tenant have to put the lease on their application or if one and done is good. I'm also not completely clear how if you apply and your landlord applies, the system actually ties those applications together. Stay tuned and don't be so surprised if you have to be a squeaky wheel to get everything addressed, right? What else is interesting about the program? Well, like many programs that are basically free money, we expect all the funds to run out before everyone that qualifies actually receives them. So applying earlier is a great idea. At the moment, we expect applications to go live on Tuesday, June 1st. Whoa. I have a lot of paperwork to put together before then. But in the first 30 days, there are certain categories and overlays of folks that will get priority processing, and you can multi-qualify for the accelerated processing. Things like being unemployed, being disabled, having extra low income as opposed to just qualifies for the program low income, living in a small upstate apartment that is anything that's 20 units or less. All of those will get priority handling only during the first 30 days of the program. Does that 30 days go from June 1st? We're thinking yes, but who can tell? After that, everything will be wide open with no priority, but it will still go in order that you got your application in. So as with many things, when there's a pot of money that might disappear, earlier is better. Oh yeah, one more thing during the first 30 days, there's a set aside or a carve out or whatever words you want to use for upstate, that is outside of the New York City area, to make sure that downstate, where most of the people live in New York and where the rents tend to be higher, doesn't use up the entire pot of money before upstate gets a chance. So they're trying to make things fair, but as many times when humans try to make things fair, it gets complicated quickly. So is that it? Oh no, there's a few more glitches, plus probably a bunch we haven't thought of. One is that you still need to be living in the apartment you're getting the rental assistance for. So if you moved 2 months ago, it could help you with where you live now, but it won't help you for where you used to live, even if it's in the covered time period, even if you otherwise qualify. So it's just for where you live now. Not sure what happens if you move after you apply. Stay tuned. Take that into consideration. Another glitch is that applications are online or over the phone only. And the phone estimates have run from 40 minutes to upwards of an hour. So I highly suggest using online. And if you don't have access or if it's a hassle on your phone, if your thumbs look like mine, thumb typing is not your friend. I'll actually have a link to the app that I use for typing on my phone, but that's a whole nother issue. But your landlord is probably willing to help. I know we are. You may be able to go to your landlord and do your application there. Another item is that the forward rent assistance applies only if you're less than 50% of the area median income and if your rent responsibility is more than 30% of that income. So lower income qualification than the program overall and a specific rent threshold, which the rest of the program doesn't have. This also may make it difficult or impossible for people that are receiving Section 8 to qualify for the forward rental income, and for the past rental income, that may be a narrower amount of money available to people on Section 8, just because Section 8 is already taking care of part of their rental responsibility. Well, I think that's about it for glitches and eligibility. Do check out the links to see if you could apply, and tomorrow's video will look more at the nitty-gritty of applications, although some of that will be guessing since the applications aren't quite live yet. Stay tuned. I hope this information will help you make the most of your lease. Until next time, may your home be your best nest. Take care. These are some piece of paper that will show, some piece of paper that will show. I think that's about it. Yep, that's about it. What else? Maybe I should look at my list. I think that's about everything we can think of at the moment. Well, that's about it. Tomorrow we'll look more about